Thanks for listening in. I try to be honest, and that means that I've taken this kind of title, e-government 4.0, because it could be another buzzword. There is manufacturing 4.0, as you know, in Germany, and these guys really know what I mean about that, and we have had this wave of eGov 2.0. So I said, how can I make an impact to you by saying what I think is good e-government, and what is good e-government, what is a critical success factor to do good e-government. I've had the luck to work 10 years for Microsoft as a chief technologist. I've had the luck to work for Hewlett Packard Enterprise for 5 years. Of these, I did 10 years e-government projects in this big region, as you thought. So I will be trying to share you what I think works and what I think does not work. The first thing I wanted to summarize is, can you be, in a one-liner, indicate 3 critical elements to say our e-government project and program is correct. And the first one is the concept digital by default. I will go deeper into that one. The second one is the concept that you always hear in e-government seminars. I heard it for 5 years. Yes, there's a security issue. Yes, we have privacy issues. You should just solve that equation. You can solve the security and privacy questions. So there must be privacy by design in when you do e-government. And the third element, which I've really noticed in the last years, is the idea that you do e-government to do something more than that you were doing in paperwork. You need to add value to this thing, and IT can add value if you look at your smartphones. If you look at the upcoming, I call it contextualization, smartness. So this is my, in fact, the critical kind of summary, the three one-liners to say what I believe eGov 4.0 should do. The first one, digital by default. Is there somebody of Estonia here? I'm just looking, no, there's nobody of Estonia, because you could be an e-citizen of Estonia, as you know. You should not even live there. You can apply for the digital identity of an Estonian. Maybe that's because their name was Estonian. That didn't really work out quite well. But it did not work out for España. They don't do that yet, you know. You have some countries which I think where Apple is more important, so like you have iPads, iPods. You can have Ireland, and you know, and then you have an e-government. That's why they got taxed so much in Ireland, I believe. And if you talk about Sweden, if you want to be an e-citizen of Sweden, just drop the SW, that's the software, and you are in Eden, which is, of course, the land of hope and glory. I'm joking, but the point I wanted to make by that is, if you look here to yourself, you have created your alter ego digitally. And this concept that you are not yourself, but there is an alter ego of you existing, means that there should be an alter ego services base to deliver and help you on. And that deep belief, I believe, is really going the criteria for successful e-government. And that's why I give some examples about countries which I find very remarkable. In the midst there's Australia. A good friend of me is Paul Shetler. He was the CIO of the Minister of Justice in the UK, was hired there, and what he did when he got on board, he said, I am creating a completely new department which completely redesigns all the processes, how people deal with the Minister of Justice in the UK. All from scratch. He did not believe in any legacy process to be used and do it. The other way around, I'm creating my digital services offering. And he has become digital transformation officer of the Australian government. So it's not a CIO, it is a chief transformation officer. So you see that governments like Australia, they completely are revising the way you deal with the government from scratch. Same I said as Minister of Justice, and the same you have in two countries, Estonia, which we all take as an example, let's face it. They did a great job on giving e-services. In fact, they've covered practically everything now what you can get. They've created the idea of an e-citizenship. There are other countries which are very remarkable, of course, Singapore. Singapore is, for me, one of the references from the beginning on, where the idea is that all ministries, all government activities go to GovTech, which is an agency which provides then the services in an integrated, orchestrated way. Words I'm using conceivably because I don't believe in e-government when there's not a strategic agenda. I don't believe it when it's not empowered. Then it's crap, it's sideline working. So two things. You have Singapore as an example, you have Estonia as an example, and I will cover where the country I'm coming from on some of these topics which I think they did correctly right. And then there's, of course, the EU themselves, which has an e-government action plan. And it's very good to see that they have learned their lesson. In the e-government action plan, you really find digital by default. You fear the concept only once data storage. You have the concepts of open data and transparency. Easy access and unified access for everybody. Core principles for e-government, which is their e-government action plan 2.0 now, which they have. And I like the last one is the marketing from Microsoft, is that the people we will do this for, they believe they live mobile first, cloud first. And we have to give them government services which fit their way of working. Don't underestimate that the next generation can even not believe how old-fashioned we are. And we should really, as government officials, take this responsibility. So this is a question that I say that, do you believe that there is this kind of digital by default? Do you have an empowered government structure which takes that as a strategic agenda? Do you see that as a transformation challenge? And what have we learned and what can we use? This is then a country where I'm living in the northern part of Belgium. You know, it's around 6 million people. And they decided 5 years ago that in the government agreement, there is in the coalition agreement, there is a digital agenda. And that digital agenda says that by 2020, all government services must be available online. It's a political decision which is standing into the government's agreement. I take that as an example that I think that's the only way that things can really move. And so they have changed legislation. They have a strategic action plan which is called Radically Digital as such. You know, and they have introduced some concepts which I think are very relevant. The idea about, we will see it later on, the right once principle. A citizen is never ever asked twice the same information. If you are registered as a student, you don't need for the student application, you know, once again to enter yourself as a citizen. I'm here again, I'm living that place, and I've been. How many times are people entering twice or third or fourth times the same data? So you use, of course, the idea of identification, eID, and I'll come back later on that one. And you should build in privacy and security by design, and I'm giving you some examples on that. Business matters. Why would the government do that? There is the delivery of service for your new say it, incumbents and the new people, the new millennials. But there is also money. If you just analyze it from a business perspective or from the usage of people's time and effort and paperwork and so on, you know, the Flemish government made an assumption that they could really save in overall, you know, efficiency around 9 million euros a year in introducing this kind of online e-services. For the techies and for the guys, what is, in fact, key component of this Magda, is it called, program in Flanders? First of all, for the technical guys, you used what we know, services definitions, web services, service-oriented architectures. That's for the technical people. I'm not going to elaborate. The second thing, you have to impose the general denominator. If you want to talk to each other, if you want to call upon data from other people, you have to agree the language. Are we speaking English now here? You can hustle around and let ministers do and local governments do whatever they think. IT is brilliant, but you need to talk together. So a platform is there. You know, Estonia is successful because they implemented X-Road. Every ministry, same interface, same data model, same semantic level. No way. Arguing around cost, spaghetti, transformation costs. Third one, identification, authentication. British have a problem, maybe. You cannot do e-government without a proper and well-conceived e-identification system. Who are you? Not only who you are, can you sign? Do you have the e-trust services behind that? E-government, you know, European government has a fixed program, a directive that all the countries should have by 2022. You know, all these kind of trusted services and signatures there. It boosts the adoption of e-government. Authentic sources is the right ones thing. So you really say that the source of the information, if you are the local government and you have the first kind of information of that person, that is the information registry which will be used in the rest of the e-government kind of environment. The right ones principle is very important in government concepts. The legal framework, when you want to do that, you have to accept that people have to share their data, how to protect their data, what is the data model, and everything around that. And last but not least is privacy, but I'll come on that one. Facts and figures. You know, it's a small country, 6 million. It's, as you said, a federated state. You know, it has been 8 years of growth. You know, the adoption is quite well. We expect, in fact, by 2020, as we said, to have all services online. You know, there's a cost saving around 97 million, which we do. You know, the agencies, these are only customers because these are not the citizens. These are, in fact, 200 agencies and local governments, in fact, taking this kind of background. The team is about 20 IT experts, 14 civil servants continuously working on this one. It's around an investment of €2 million a year, just to give you an idea. So up to now, we've done around 16 million euros that it has costed. And then you see the number of data items and you know, things, I think, just that it's picking up. And I think it has the momentum through the design criteria which we had previously. So digital by default, with a concept that, as an example, the Flemish government stating by 2020, everything what you want to do as a government can be offered as an online service. Second thing, privacy by design. Is privacy important? Yes, it is important, as Europeans we say. It is. I can tell you in the world, privacy is not regarded as important. There's an idea, which once somebody explained it to me, that if you look geopolitically about privacy, the discussion, in the US, privacy means that the big enterprises are protected. In China, it means that the government is protected. And we Europeans, we think privacy is to protect the citizen. It's very interesting because the mundial discussion about privacy when we come to the privacy shield discussion is because we have this fundamental conflict of what is your vision? What is the centricity of your thinking when you talk about privacy? I met the senior security officer of General Electric, and I had a lunch with him 2 weeks ago, and I was asking him what about privacy and so on. He said what he said, it's a temporary given. You know, there has been a society when, you know, when rural and everybody knew everything in the villages from each other, then we have gone into this kind of modern society and then people started to adhere to privacy. But if you look now at the kids and everybody on Facebook and Google, we just throw it there, nobody cares about privacy. So you feel a very, very fundamental discussion. Me personally, and Europeans, and certainly the European Commission, privacy is a fundamental right. And I must even say, the more I think about it, the more I see what we are doing, and we, I mean the IT guys every day, with the upcoming of IoT, and if I don't have to tell you what Google knows about you, what Facebook knows about you, Amazon knows about you, it is hilarious. And there's no problem, because you will say, today I can have all these kind of services, and I'm really, you know, I'm in the street and they say you can buy this kind of stuff. Unless tomorrow you get a populist kind of a president in the biggest country of this world. Or you get, as an example, you are soliciting for a job and you know that they know your medical record. Or that you are really, you know that at a certain moment harassed on the internet and you have no way you can change it. Then your life changes. So privacy is important. And so what I think two important things to know is the GDPR, as you know, the Global Data Protection Regulation, is a regulation that means every country in Europe will have to implement it by 2018. Okay? Every country has to implement it. It's a golden thing. It streamlines the way privacy is controlled. It gives the access points in every country, you know, when you have a complaint. It has solved the issues about controllers and processors. The controllers are those who talk to you. The processors are the cloud providers, to give you an example. It gives a fee of up to 4% a year to a company if you can't show that they did not deal accurately with your privacy. It's the only way that you will force the industry to take this important. So privacy is important, and I think as a European Union, we really make steps forward to get it done. You had then, of course, the big decision about the Safe Harbor Agreement. As you know, our dear Mr. Schrems out of Austria saying that, you know, saying to Facebook, I really want to know what you know about me, and I'm not agreeing that you have that information, and the whole thing started. And finally, he won. So the whole European Union had to do a new deal with the US, and they have agreed on Privacy Shield, which is a much more stronger concept that as a European citizen, if your data is in the Google databases in the US, you are as well protected as the EU regulation here in Europe on that data which they have in their data centers. We should not underestimate in the world of tomorrow the importance of these two left kind of things. Being more realistic, then, I come to the point that if you implement privacy in your own environment, you have to do that by design. By design really means you have authorization rules, you have access rules, you have what are called auditing points, you have, in fact, certifications in the web services which you apply. You have the write it only once principle so that the data is not replicated. Makes your transactions what we call stateless, so nobody else can seek your transaction afterwards, what you have been doing and where that data is. It's technical. But I'm saying to you, you can apply in any government privacy by design today because the importance is there. And this is what it shows is that in one of these things at the end in privacy is that you accept the concept to be accountable. Accountability is done by, first of all, do you see the risk and opportunities? Do I have the governance in my organization to take care of this privacy? Commit yourself, how do you implement it, and can I validate so that you can demonstrate to the individual citizen that his data is in fact protected, to the external stakeholders like regulators that you are compliant in what you have been doing, and finally maybe also in the internal stakeholders for companies that you are in fact compliant to the regulation. It is there, it's possible, and we have to take it serious. And then comes the third theme, smartness. I called it Smarties, because I liked it as an idea. But the point here, we should exploit the strength of information technology to give better services. Yeah? That's the whole concept. And that is a little bit what you see in the discussion about smart cities as an important point, is that, you know, yeah, there's metering, there's traffic, and so on. But how are we going to do that? There's no need to have all these sensors and all these kind of things. You need things to be better. Yeah? And I'll give you what I think are important elements to make things better in that environment. What are the attributes? First of all, a lot of structured data. Structured data is a data which you have in a well-defined format in databases around you, your birth, all your transactions and sales and so on. But there's an immense amount of unstructured data. You know, there's the emails, there's the, you know, there's the kind of social networking information which is there. You know, so when you say, when we make new e-government applications, can we integrate the structured thing which are in the registries with maybe the fluffy things about people, you know, sending emails or twittering or sending statements on Facebook? Can you do something with these two totally different formats? There is the idea, and that certainly you have that in the cars, the connected cars element, the autonomous cars, you know, is quite obvious. I think it's one of the first big smart, say, city application, I think, which will really pick up. It is the idea that you have location-based services. You should really now with IT, and you see that when you go to hospitals, or you see that when you, certainly when you have Google on your Android phone, is that you know what you will get contextualized where you are. So there is the idea that you have a multitude of kind of information coming together, and then the whole idea is that applications should become not UI-driven, user interface-driven, but AI-driven. Have you read the literature? There's so much new talk today about artificial intelligence. You saw the last announcements of Microsoft, how they rearranged, and they put all their development is around artificial intelligence. You saw Apple, which is trying to really pick up, because they're behind Google, on what this has to do. It's all about that your devices and your government services, because that's why we are here, will need and benefit from this kind of contextualization. I will give you the examples that this is possible in government. So let's ask the question for governments. Can we make transport smart? I think yes. We have a very great example which comes from New Zealand. It's Auckland. Auckland has one of the second highest traffic congestions in Australasia, behind Sydney. They have also this behavior, maybe understandable, like typically for you, private car usage is around 85%, where here in Sweden that's around 60%. So it's call it a new society where everybody just driving cars. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. With enormous congestion, yeah? Enormous congestions, problems which they had. The public authority of that city, which also runs the public transport, we cannot just optimize our buses, they said. We need to take a holistic approach that everything what has to do with mobility in our town should be taken together. Everything, and you'll see this. So it is the idea that all the cameras are analyzing the traffic, analyzing, the license cards, analyzing the bikes passing by, the density of the pedestrians in the street, and make, in fact, deductions on the occupation of your streets. They have connected this with general information, also with the emergency services. When there are emergency services, what is happening, where is it happening, and they steer the traffic lights when emergency services happen. They have checked the social networks, where people are saying, I'm stuck here, or they make a statement about when something happens in their town. So they correlate the information from the social networks with the analysis they have and see what kind of judgment call and kind of command and control you impose to do so. I'm taking this as examples where the approach is a holistic approach, exploiting the multitude of the Internet of Things, cameras, sensors, and structured data, social networks, deduct it and you steer in a smart way overall mobility. So yes, it is possible. This is a government, a local government taking the approach, and it really works. Can we protect smart? Europe is suffering. I'm coming from a country which has gone through a war period. Nobody was prepared. We had no cameras, or hardly any cameras in town. Now everybody installs cameras. You have police in the streets, and you have everything, because we suffered a lot. So on the European agenda, public safety is a core core requirement. How you do that? We're sitting with the responsible people in France. We cannot control all these cameras. You need to automate the way you control the cameras. You need to do what are called situational awareness. You know, the military knows this by heart. You are analyzing your, the train perons, and you see what is not normal. Why is that bag remaining there? It's not the guy sitting there all day on the cameras if there's a bag. These are computers which are going to control what's going on. So we have done a lot of quite great stuff. You know, what you see here are 3 great examples. This example is one, maybe you would not like it too much, but it is the one which really analyzes the media on terrorists. So it scans continuously all the television channels in the world. When they see images from Syria, is there a UK citizen appearing on that screen? Okay. This is one where you really do kind of an analysis, a sentiment analysis about things happening in your city, and the local police, knows, do projects work, are people complaining, what is going on in our streets. And this one is a project, if you've heard about PNR, passenger name registration, is the idea that every European who takes a flight now, he will be checked on, not only on your personal information, but also if you have more information about you, which is in fact an integration of all kind of systems. Even if you buy in the airport, it will the right to be checked, on what is going on. It shows the power of big data. It shows the smartness which comes in software, and it's about public safety. As a correction, the privacy is really taken at heart. There are really good rules in Europe to master, I think, the usage of these things. Can you be smart in healthcare? We are proud that we have worked together with Skanska on the Karolinska Hospital, offering location-based services in an environment that that you solve the equation between who, where, with what device, how you bundle that kind from a security perspective. That's the challenge of the mobile operator or the mobile worker. Can you control who does what, where, with what? And these kind of things, are conceived in the architecture and in the infrastructure, which we will deploy in the NKS hospital as such. And this is kind of this, which allows you to do smart things. It allows you to say that the doctor can only access the patient file when he is in that kind of room. It's not he can just do this, and anyone can take his, iPad and, oh my goodness, she's really sick. Yeah. This one is a project done in the province of Galicia. It's what I call the health portal. It's a project funded by the EU. For your information, this was a €100 million project. So just to say about what money you talk about. But what is nice about this one, it is the concept that you are connecting the caretakers with the care providers on a bigger scale. That's the concept. So what you do is that if you want to see a doctor, you just apply for that and you take the rendezvous there. But at the same time, you have all kind of information about your sickness, so you have an information background on that one. You have also all the legislation. You have the insurances for some of the things and the status of your insurances. There is the way with the access mechanisms that the electronic medical record appears when you want to have that integrated. There is the idea that you have also, once again, closed user groups that in fact self-help groups can meet each other, etc., etc., etc. It is a very nice application which I call an example of, this was the smartness, how do you hyper-contextualize the services you deliver. When you log in as Wilfried Grommen, he knows your electronic medical record. He knows where you were. He knows where you have been talking to. He knows the questions you probably would have. He pushes you suggestions that you better look at these guys. This is what I call the smart dimension in software, this is, by the way, a government institution which has created this. Huh? So this is not Google or Amazon or anyone. Yeah? So, my conclusion, believe in the fact that there are kids which do want to live like that, and believe in the fact that you have a digital alter ego which needs to be served as a government. You have no choice and you have to do the processes. You can solve the critical thing about privacy. We are exposed tomorrow. If we don't have the legislation, we should be proud as Europeans we have GDPR, and we should be intellectually correct that we can design systems which adhere to that. And thirdly is that be enchanted by technology and look for the opportunities of smartness to really solve issues differently tomorrow. Thank you very much.